Hello, this is Greg Weeks, and I'm going over Sprint 1 for the Mecanum engine, which is what I've decided to call my engine here. Mecanum wheels are omnidirectional wheels that are used in robotics, so I figured it was appropriate for an engine that is versatile and modular, so I'm going to try to stick with that throughout the 5-month process we got going here. So, anyway, this is how I've organized my file system. So I've got an engine folder, which is keeping track of all of these managers, well, containing all of these managers rather. Sorry, I can't speak today. So you got a user code folder as well. There's nothing in there currently because I don't really know what to put in there. I'm not completely certain if I should have put the game.cpp and main.cpp in user code because it seems kind of appropriate, but I mean that's an easy thing to fix. It's not really much to stress about there. So I've also organized all of the models, shaders, and textures into their own respective folders, and we're going to see how we access those in a minute. So that's the basic setup we got there. This is how I've set up all of the filters. So I've got the asset managers in their own little thing here, so it's a bit more readable. Alright, let's scroll all the way up here. So as you can see in the models, textures, and shaders load functions we got here, we're never calling new, and that's offloaded to the managers that we have. So let's take a look at the model manager specifically. So as you can see, this is set up as a singleton. We've got our default path there. So in all of the managers, I'm setting that default path. I'm going to go to the specific folder that we have. And I also messed around with the preferences, so I don't have to include the engine folder every time if you care about that. It's a very small detail. But anyway, the model manager actually has two get model functions because I couldn't figure out how to eloquently include the prefabs. So I'm not completely sure if I'm doing this correctly. So I'm just calling get model. So I'm not actually loading the model here. The load models do ultimately call the new function in the model manager. But what I'm doing is calling an initialize function in model manager, which at the beginning calls all of the prefabs that we already have, like initialized, I suppose. Well, this is initializing them, and it's just mapping them to 0, 1, and 2 in the map that we have here. So yeah, I'm not completely sure if this is the right way to go about it. I tried doing this in the constructor, and it just crashed the engine. So yeah, this is how I have it set up right now. I don't love it, so hopefully that changes soon. But I've got load and get, and it's pretty much the same deal for the rest of the managers. So I have a terminate function, which is called at the end of game.cpp. So in theory, it should be getting rid of that map when I close out of the engine. But yeah, the shader manager and texture manager pretty much exactly the same, set up as a singleton. Yeah, there are pretty much no differences here. The only difference with the model manager is that we are calling get model twice for that prefab. So if there's a similar situation with prefabs in the texture and shader manager, it's gonna be tricky. Yeah, so I'm trying to account for missing files and whatnot here. So I've got a debug output when you're actually trying to load in the assets. And just to prove to you that all of this works, here we go. It's relatively stable there. Well, it is stable, not relatively stable. We can see successfully loaded resource down here. So I think that's about it. See ya.